This is a quick video just to explain how I go about with the marking process of the civil analytical drawings. So the first one that I want to focus on is the angle of which this page was scanned at. So firstly, this is now just an analytical question, basically theory, and therefore it wouldn't affect my marking process as much in this case. However, if this was a floor plan that needed to be drawn and I had to measure the angle of the exact lengths of your walls, I would not be able to mark it fairly and accurately, because I cannot mark something accurately if the image is not taken at a perfect angle of 90 degrees from the top. So for me, it would not have been physically possible to measure and check whether or not you have measured your measurements on the floor plan of your walls accurately. And therefore I would have to deduct marks, because obviously the instructions was clear that every single drawing must be scanned at a perfect angle of 90 degrees from the top. So as you would know, true lengths can only be measured at an angle of 90 degrees from a viewpoint, which is either the front, the top, or the side, but viewed at an angle of 90 degrees. That's the crucial part. Good. So with that put aside, let's look at how I go about marking drawings like these. Now, there firstly was no problem with the writing, because it is in capital block letters and it was also written with pencil, so there was no problem. However, please make sure that your writing is neat and legible. And then when you come to doing calculations, always try to convert your calculations first to meter, because in this case the question was for you to give the answer in meters, both for the perimeter and the area at question 9 and 10. And it's just easier to work with the meters where the amount is smaller to work with and the mistakes are less, because the problem here with this calculation was purely because the measurements was done with millimeters and you had a lot of zeros, and that was caused the problem for unnecessary mistakes in this issue. So the next part here is if we now look at how I did the marking of the freehand drawings, question 11 and 12. Now I just want to mention this is from the JPEGD workbook, page 48 for grade 11s, and this is the 2022 version of the workbook. So what we do here with question 11 and 12 is we have to use freehand to draw the drawings. So that's very important that you don't use any instruments when you do this. However, the standard must still be proper. So when we are looking at these drawings, the number one, when we look at the face brick, that clearly is not a face brick hatching, because we know that all hatching must be done at an angle of 45 degrees. And with face brick, we have the double line and then a single line, like so. There it's a double line, then a single line and a double line, and they are equally spaced. And this is not done as entirely neat on freehand, but this is just an example to show what the problem is. So you have to make sure you understand the difference between the hatching of a face brick and then also of a common or stock brick, which is at number 2. Number 2 is fine. Now there is still these things here that's actually not acceptable, but I let it slide and I didn't want to be too harsh. When we look at number 3, this is for wood, the way that we hatch the wood. As you would know, the lines aren't really central, but it's acceptable. I'll let that slide as well. And then coming back to answer 12, we are looking at number 1, and at number 1 you will see I've deducted a mark because the views were placed in the wrong orientation. Remember, civil drawings are all done in first angle, therefore your top view would be at the bottom and your front view at the top. So number 2, 3 and 4's positions was correct, but now look at also the line work and how skew these lines are when you look at the drawing. So I had to deduct marks for line work. I know there are teachers that would be a bit more strict and would have deducted a lot more. However, the drawing is done, although it's done very rough and really maybe not to standard, but that's why I deducted 2 marks, and that's why I said that you must in future just remember to draw according to the standards that are expected. So that's a quick wrap up of I go about marking the civil analytical drawings.